Hello, my name is Keriarth, and today we are going to talk about a realisation that I had yesterday whilst watching a video by Valrak, which is a link in the description, talking about Dante fighting Abaddon, which I'm going to say Abaddon only because that's what I'm used to saying, and my brain is not functional enough right now to correctly get it right every time, so I'll just stick with the incorrect pronunciation because it's a habit. Advanced warning, possibly advanced apology before editing. This video may well be cut to pieces, like jump cuts everywhere, clear chunks missing. I had a 17-hour long migraine yesterday, and it has just ruined me down to my very core. But I need to do something. I need to do anything. I'm so bored. I did nothing all day. I just lay in a darkened room wanting to die, essentially. So I'm just trying to ignore it and carry on as normal today. But my brain is trashed and fried and possibly on fire. So I apologise if this video is like jump cutted to hell. Anyway, the video that Valrak did, I enjoyed it. It was good. You should go and watch it. But it gave me a strange and weird realisation, which is that Abaddon, I haven't really properly thought about that much since the release of the Demon Primarchs that we've had so far. And of course, there are going to be other Primarchs. You know, we're going to see more Demon Primarchs coming back. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw all of them in some capacity at the end of, well, whatever epic 50-year-long storyline we are in at that point. And it kind of made me realise that poor old Abby down there, just your standard Chaos Space Marine in Terminator armour, admittedly with a bitching sword and a massive claw, he's not so much overshadowed as made, I'm not going to say relevant. Irrelevant's not fair. After all, we've had a Black Crusade where Cadia has been annihilated. But in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scale of chaos, in the pecking order, no matter how many times it is emphasised that old Abby is in fact the War Master, see, I've got round the mispronunciation issue by just shortening his name. Genius move. I'll have to remember that. He's just not got the stature. He's just not got the impact, the grandeur that you'd expect from, like, the War Master, the leader of the Chaos Forces, who isn't really, because there is a Demon Primarch in the form of Magnus running around, who is fucking massive, who is unquestionably more powerful than Abby by a considerable amount. Then we've got Mortarion, also running around. Well, I mean, both of them technically more flying around than running. But you have these two absolute, like, titanic forces who are so much more impressive in every way. The problem that I'm having, I think, is that while, yes, the War Master has been running around, he's been doing a lot of fighting on the behalf of Chaos, he has been trashing the Imperium at every opportunity, he has brought together, you know, Chaos warbands that have no interest in working together. He's clearly still got a vast amount of influence, he still has a vast amount of power. But that feels like it's coming from the position and not from the man at this point. It just feels as though the actual guy, the man himself, like Abaddon himself, just isn't that impressive anymore. It comes to, I think, the problem of, like, relative power. The Demon Primarchs have always been incredibly powerful, they've always been incredibly strong, but for whatever reason they've also been incredibly fucking lazy and have done nothing for like 10,000 years, they've just faffed around. Only really Angron has actually gone out there and properly made his presence felt. The others have just secluded themselves. I mean, in Mortarion's case, he spent thousands of years chasing his adoptive father's soul through the warp so that he could torment it. I mean, that's great, but when you think Primarch corrupted and made more powerful by chaos, that's not immediately where your mind goes as a good use of that power or a good use of your time. Fulgrim has been just secluded away on his planet of pleasure with its throne of living velvet, which is still the most disgusting sentence I think I've ever read. The only thing that made that worse is if it was a moist throne of living velvet. The Demon Primarchs have been massively underwhelming for the vast majority of their existence as Demon Primarchs. It's always been a problem with the lore. It's always been an issue that I've had with it anyway, where it's very difficult to properly convey the sense of power that you should get from these beings whilst they do absolutely fuck all. On the other hand, Abaddon has actually achieved stuff. He's actually gone out and done things. Yes, there is the meme that he has no arms and that he's kind of useless because there's been 13 Black Crusades and he's not really achieved all that much in the grand scheme of things, but at least he's achieved something. At least he's done something. At least he's put the effort in. You know, even if you come in second, at least you actually ran in the fucking race. The Demon Primarchs, by and large, have been somewhat less than impressive in their efforts at overturning their father's empire, because they've not had or made any effort in overturning their father's empire. But now, with Mortarion back, with Magnus back, with most likely Angron coming back next, I would assume, anyway. I mean, it could be Angron or Fulgrim. Angron would make a bit more sense with the Armageddon stuff coming up, but who knows? Who really knows? There's no point speculating about that now. Abaddon is just not there anymore. As a character, as a being of power, as a vessel, a conduit for chaos itself, he's just not there for me right now. It's kind of disappointing, because despite all of the jokes about how he's not that great and how he's kind of a bit crappy when it comes to actually overthrowing the Imperium, which is his entire stated goal, he's at least had some form of impact. He's at least come across as a source of power, you know? That's kind of lacking now. Now that we actually have the big boys turning up and, you know, actually doing something. I mean, if you think about how much havoc the Death Guard wreaked across Ultramar, it's like they did something pretty big straight off the bat, and I guess it kind of presents the problem of keeping a character that is so well established and keeping a character that has achieved what Abaddon has achieved without them remaining kind of a bit lackluster in the face of beings who are genuinely and literally, I think, they're superior. I mean, Mortarion is superior to Abaddon. Magnus is superior to Abaddon. They just are. Whether you're talking about how much power they personally wield, whether you're talking about personal strength, they are just stronger in every way. At this point, it's kind of a weird one, because I have enough kind of attachment to Abaddon as a long-lasting character, as like a force of nature almost, that to see him die, to see him be removed, would be kind of crappy. I don't think I'd actually enjoy that all that much. I think that would be a kind of disappointing end unless there was a huge amount of fuss made about it. Unless he was, you know, taken out by Guilliman himself or something, and still achieved at least an objective in the process. Having him last this long and then just sort of vaguely carry on, doing a bit here and there. Because realistically, whilst the goal might be Terror, he's not going to overthrow Terror. That would never happen. That's impossible. That would wreck the setting. And so, obviously, the latest Black Crusade will at some point fail. It's done a hell of a lot better than a lot of the previous ones have, but it will fail. That's just the way that the narrative has to go. But the man himself, I don't think he can last the way he is. I don't think he can just continue being Abaddon the War Master with his black Terminator armor and his two, admittedly, awesome weapons. Something has to happen with him. But at the same time, I don't really want him to die, because even though he's not really living up to kind of the grand vision of what I think Chaos can be, or indeed should be, there's a lot of emotional attachment to the character. There's a lot there that makes me think that he could do better things. He could ascend to become a demon prince. That would be pretty awesome. But it would also go against, at this point, decades of established lore that show him as pretty clearly not wanting that. It would be a drastic change of character. Then again, maybe a drastic change of character would make sense, given that he is now in a galaxy whereby there are living Primarchs to contend with. I feel like after all this time, after so many years, something about Abaddon has to change. Like, something has to be done to make him match up to, the brothers of his Primarch. But it's just, how do you do that? Does he ascend? Does he die? Does he get some new form of ascension from the Chaos Gods, having been a loyal and successful servant for so long? Something more powerful, a Demon Prince? Would it make any sense for him to even become as powerful as a Demon Primarch, or would that just be stupid? It's genuinely weird to think about. But as he stands, he just doesn't measure up. It's like, I have this kind of attachment to the character because of how long it's been around, and at the same time, the events that have happened around him so far also leave me in this contradictory point where it's like, oh, I quite like Abaddon. Yeah, I quite like him. I don't think I really care what happens to him, because he's just not as important as the return of Demon Primarchs, essentially, but I still quite like him all the same. It's a weird thing to think about. And that's probably why this has been incredibly rambly. But, yeah, that's just something that occurred to me yesterday, and now I've shared it with you. It's basically what that boils down to. Yeah, what do you reckon of him, though? Do you think you should just kill him off? Do you think he should just be gone? Or do you think he should be kept around? Should he ascend? Like, what would you do? What would you personally do with Abaddon now we actually have Demon Primarchs and Loyalist Primarchs returning to the galaxy? What do you see his position as? Let me know in the comments down below. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I might not have to cut the shit out of this, actually. I don't think that was 100% terrible. In the meantime, feel free to click any of the things on the screen. There's videos, Patreon, subscribe, all of that. Click it if you like. Don't click if you don't want to. And I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.